Yo, what is going on everybody? It's Brave Cat here once again with another Frontier Signals update. So it should be a pretty short and sweet update for this evening. So let's just go ahead and get started on the space weather side. So I finally looked up to see what this was all about here. And it looks like these dips in the feed here simply just have to do with the fact that we are in basically an eclipse season. And this is when the shadow of the Earth is blocking the satellite from actually viewing data, so it was pretty easy to look that up. I guess I just wanted to believe it was maybe some sort of strange anomaly happening. So that's what was going on there, and everything's been relatively quiet. However, we do see a pretty sharp uptick here in the solar wind, particularly the speed. And so that is going to result in some minor activity here in the KP index. We've already hit a KP of 4, and I mean this isn't really like much that's going on here, and yet as usual the Earth's magnetic field is just basically freaking out over some really minor activity here. So we could see, well, very likely auroras at higher altitudes, but there's even a chance of seeing these auroras happen at mid latitudes. So again, that's pretty uncommon, especially for just such light space weather here. There's no flares coming at us. The coronal holes are very minimal. And if we take a look here at the kind of final frame over here, okay, I guess, what? That's weird. What happened here? It looks like some seriously freaky stuff happened here with the SDO feed. I actually did not notice that. I'm wondering if that shows up on all these other ones. Yeah, okay, it looks like the SDO feeds are kind of bugging a little bit. But we can always go over here and look at this, and while that loads, just take a look at the chronograph here. So we see that kind of flare that happened on the far side yesterday here, and we have some more recalibration or whatever going on here. But it looks like a pretty wide ejecta, not a full halo CME, and it's definitely going to be pointed away from us. And even if it did, that would still take probably another couple days or something. So that's not what's causing any of this. Alright, let's take a look at what this has from the GOES 19. So again, nothing really going on there. And again, the coronal holes are pretty minimal right now. So taking a look at the sunspots here, once again, these are looking pretty stable. And they haven't really done much here. There's nothing, they haven't degraded, but they haven't grown at all. And the complexity of them has pretty much stayed exactly the same. So hopefully those will just kind of chill out and they can go back to the far side. But we do have these other regions here kind of inching their way to the Earth-facing side. And again, it's going to be this region up here, seen in the gray, where these sunspots look pretty dark, pretty large, and could have some magnetic complexity going on there. So just going to keep an eye on that. And other than that, that's pretty much about it in terms of the space weather. So taking a quick look at the earthquakes here, I made an X post earlier regarding these moderately deep earthquakes. They're not really that deep, but all of these happened in a pretty quick time frame, within a couple hours of each other, it seems, and over a pretty large area. And especially these 3 5s here, I mean, they're all basically the same exact magnitude. So basically it looks like right under the crust of the Earth, just in the very uppermost part of the mantle, we have some sort of seismic activity going across what appears to be like half the planet. And then there's also a similar sized one, similar depth down here in South America. So I just thought that was probably the only notable thing that has happened. Everything's actually been pretty quiet. Not really any shallow earthquakes here. We can drag it out a little bit here. There's that 6.3 that happened. And other than that, again, it's all been very, very quiet across the board. But looking at things volcanically, things have mostly stayed the same. Nothing has really gone up in the warning scales here. But we do have here on Fuego and Sabancaya, seems to have a little bit of an uptick when it comes to like explosions being reported, seismic activity around these locations. So it seems like definitely South America, Central America, and all of Indonesia still going to be looking out for volcanic activity in these areas here, because anything can change on a dime. And then even, of course, a couple volcanoes up here in Alaska to continue monitoring. So really not too much for today. Look at the tremor map here. We do finally have a little bit of activity going on in the Pacific Northwest. So taking it back to the whole month, the whole last month, it's been just deadly quiet. I haven't seen hardly anything on here. And it's not too uncommon to see like several hundred of these events going on per day. So I'm starting to wonder what is going on over here on the West Coast. We do still have the same uptick in tremors, and it actually looks like down here in Texas, things are heating up a little bit in the most western side here. So I'm just curious if I try to look any of these up here. It's kind of what I figured. It says this whole swarm is coming from New Mexico, when clearly it's in Texas. I mean, it's like, you know, it's not even on the border. Like, it's pretty much in Texas here. And they're saying that this is coming out of New Mexico for whatever reason. Probably to skew some of the data or something to that effect. But this actually looks like a pretty large uptick here. Now, what's the biggest magnitude here? Oh, so we actually have a couple of upper threes going on here. Yeah, actually, this is going to be pretty significant to keep watch of. I mean, it's a pretty sparsely populated area, and there's not much out here besides like some solar farms, potentially some oil and gas pumping operations, but pretty low population area. So at least it's not any sort of critical danger, but this is the most activity that I've seen coming out of this area here. So we still do have quite a bit of seismic pressure going across this area. It just isn't fully seen, especially when we look at things going up into Canada here. And I do have that feed active right now. I guess, okay, this was going to be a really short update, but now I'm actually curious to see what's going on here. So looking at the Canada feed, so looking at, wow, so that there really hasn't been anything reported out of here in the last day or so. So yeah, I don't know, we'll just have to see what happens. Hopefully they're not misreporting earthquakes, but I wouldn't really put it past them at this point. But this is what we can see, at least. And I mean, going back for the whole week, there's been a pretty significant amount of activity. Fours going across the plate here, across the whole North American craton boundary, as you can see here. So stuff is going on. It's just a little bit hard to tell exactly what. So I think that'll about wrap things up. Just one little off-topic thing over here going on over in Iran. So it looks like they have destroyed their oil depots. See where that goes, I guess. Just be prepared for anything, I suppose, in the crazy world that we live in. So other than that, that'll about wrap things up for today's update. Hope y'all enjoyed. Please like and subscribe for more, and comment down below. All that stuff really helps out, and you know, feedback is always welcomed, criticism, whatever it is. So anyways, hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all in the next.